Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kyra, and here on this channel we are all about real makeup for real life and real people. Today's video is all about the products that I would like to project pan in the future. Whether that be the near future or the farther future, I, for one reason or another, have a drive to pan some of these products. I have one in every category except for eyeshadow and lips. I have several, so why don't we get started? I did not pick a primer because I really don't like panning primers, if I'm being honest. I'm working on one now, and I use primers when I feel like I need to, and I don't when I don't. But starting with foundation, the next foundation I would like to pan after the current two that I'm working on is my Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Tinted Hydrating Gel Cream SPF 30 in the shade 5.5 Bamboo. This is definitely more than half gone, or around half gone, and I don't know, it's a favorite, so I like to pan things that I like. It is going to be a decent shade match, I feel like, in the future. This is a little light for me right now, but I would definitely like to work on finishing this up at some point. For concealer, I picked the Glossier Stretch Concealer. This is the shade G10. It's the original shade I bought, I think. I don't know. I have two. One was decluttered to me from my bestie, and the other one I purchased myself. One is more peachy, one is a little bit more warm and yellow, which works better for me. But the point being, these are cream products. I would really like to at least hit pan on one of these in the future. I'm not for sure when this will go in, if this will be the next concealer that I work on panning, but I don't need two of them, and I don't want the one that doesn't work for me quite as well to go to waste, so I want to pan one of those. For powder, this was a little tricky. I am currently working on my number 7 Lift and Illuminate powder, but I do want to pan more of a regular setting powder versus just my, for all intents and purposes, under eye setting powder. So it's not that I can't use the number 7 one all over my face, it's just that I don't prefer to, and right now during the summer it's definitely not an option. So I went ahead and picked the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Perfecting Powder right here. I have the shade Beige L4 to M1. It's a pretty good shade for me. It might be a little deep come winter time, so it may be something that needs to wait more till the spring to pan, but I would really like to work on this one. It's not a favorite. It's not one that I would probably repurchase, I don't think. It just resides in my collection because I really wanted to try it. So I think I would like to work on panning it. So for powder bronzer, I'm currently working on the Tarte Amazonian Clay bronzer in the shade Park Ave Princess. Working on finishing that. And I would like to work on finishing this bronzer next. It's my number 7 Match Made bronzer in the shade Caramel. I have a large pan on it, and I don't know how long it would take me to pan this completely, but it is 100% the oldest bronzer in my collection, and therefore I'd like to use it before I lose it. Plus I really like it. So this will definitely be the next bronzer that I work on finishing. I've been wanting to work on it all year, but I thought maybe I should start with a mini bronzer to finish and move on from there. For a cream bronzer, the one I would like to work on hitting pan in next is the Tarte Sea Breezy Cream Bronzer in the shade Seychelles. I really love this. I love the tone of it. It has a nice sort of undertone of like a rosy tone, too much tone. And it's a mini, so I've been working on hitting pan in some of my cream bronzers this year. I had really good success with the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out Freestyle Cream Bronzer in the shade Butter Biscuit. So why not try and hit pan on Seychelles next? For blush, I'll start with the cream this time, and it is my ColourPop Super Shock Blush in the shade Between the Sheets. I am currently working on the shade It's October 3rd from Basic Beauty. They are kind of similar, but I do love this, and I actually have a replacement or a backup of Between the Sheets from my friend who sent it to me, who wishes to remain anonymous. But I love this blush. I would happily use this for a long period of time, which is what it would probably take me to finish this, because the one from Basic Beauty is a mini, far less product, and it is taking me forever. But I love this blush, but I don't need a backup, so I'd like to go ahead and use this one up since I've had it for a couple of years, and then move on to a fresh one. But for powder blush, I went ahead and picked out a blush quad, and that is this oldie but a goodie. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills blush kit in the shade Radiant, and I love these blushes, but I never reach for them, and so I thought it would be really fun to work on hitting pan in one of these. I think the easier choices would be one of these pinks over here, but I really think I would love to work on this more orangey shade, or even this sort of, I don't know what we would call it, a dusty reddish rose maybe. But these are a beautiful formula, and I've had this for an absolute eon. I refuse to get rid of it, and it just languishes in my blush drawer. So I think it would be fun to work on one of these. They're pretty soft. I don't know how deep the pans are, but they don't look super deep, so maybe in the near future I can work on this. For highlighter, I think you might be shocked at the powder choice, but I have mentioned before wanting to try and hit pan on this. I think it would be relatively easy to do, and it is DUPE for one of the highlighters that I'm working on currently. So the one I want to hit pan on is this one right here. It's the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Superstar Glow Highlighter. There's no shade name, but this is very, very soft, almost like an eyeshadow, very similar to the BECCA Cosmetics formula, I would say as well. And this is a very similar shade to Opal, which I'm working on finishing up. Thank goodness I have this one as well as a couple of others to keep me in that beautiful glow. I do have Opal on today, but I did do a video where I attempted to dupe BECCA's Opal highlighter, so I'll link that down in the description box in case you missed it, but this was one of the contenders. And again, I want to continue to encourage myself through my panning projects to reach for my expensive makeup. It's, you know, even if I hit pan on this, there is so much product in here that, you know, I could probably pass it on to my grandchildren, maybe even my great-grandchildren. My children are not old enough for children yet, so hopefully that tells you how much product there is. When it came down to a cream highlighter, I don't have a ton of cream highlighter in my collection. I do have some sticks and things like that, but I feel like sticks are very hard to see progress on. They take a very, very long time, especially stick highlighters to work through. So the one that I picked that I actually think I would like to work on hitting pan in would be my RMS Living Luminizer Glow Quad. These are just minis of some products from RMS Beauty. There are 3 luminizers and their bronzer here. And while these really pack a punch and a little goes a long ways, I think it would be a good idea to work on these like very soon. I feel like the bronzer has already started to change its texture. If you can see those little bumpies in there. So I just one of those things that I bought it, I like it, but I don't tend to reach for it, and I want to get some use out of it before it would go off. And lastly, in the face category is my NARS Narcissist Cheek Studio palette. I believe this was it, or one of, if not my very first face palette. It was a gift from my hubby and I love it, but it is getting old. I definitely want to work on panning this powder at some point as a setting powder because it does feel nice and it feels like it would work well on my skin. But the main thing I would really like to hit pan on in here is this bronzer. It is the Laguna bronzer, and I have another pan of Laguna that is like this size in another newer NARS palette that I have. So I'd like to at least hit pan on this shade Laguna. It's very, very firmly pressed bronzer, so it's not one that I am ambitious enough to try to completely pan and finish. But I would like to hit pan on it next year just so I feel like I'm getting good use out of the things that I've had, especially some of the things I've had for a long time. So moving on to eyeshadow, there's one single eyeshadow that came to mind that I feel like I really would like to work on hitting pan on in the near future, and that is my Beauty Junkies Dash of Curry eyeshadow. I love this shade. I just love this sort of rosy terracotta mid-tone type of a shade. I think it's really beautiful as a crease shade. It also really is a nice shade, I feel like, for a one shadow matte look, and I just happen to really love this one, so I would love to hit pan on that in the future. And I do work on a couple of singles at a time from my collection to hit pan on them because I want to give use and love to my singles just as much as my eyeshadow palettes. The very first palette that I thought of in terms of wanting to hit pan on some shades other than the palettes I'm currently working on is my ABH Norvina palette. I do absolutely love this palette. It's just one of my favorites. It's definitely at the tippy top for ABH palettes for me. I think I would definitely love to maybe work on this shade called Volatile. For some reason, I really love that brown. I also think in terms of the shimmers, I would love to hit pan on any of them, but I think the ones I would be most likely to hit pan on are the more neutral shades like Dreamer, Summer, Rose Gold, or Dazzling. So I can almost assure you that this will be one of the next palettes that I roll into my 21 in 2021 project because I'm just itching to get more use out of it. And even if I am focusing on just one shade in this palette, I overall will get more use out of the palette in general if I'm working on at least one shade. The next palette that I think I would like to work on would be my e.l.f. New Classics palette. I love this one, and I especially love the mattes in here, so I think I could definitely work on some of these mattes. They do set up the crease and transition area absolutely beautifully, and I feel like this is one that doesn't get as much love for me as it used to. I definitely prefer my Retro Paradise palette. I definitely enjoy the bite-size eyeshadow palettes that have come out since this one, but this is a fabulous palette, and just like the Norvina, I would like to get more use out of it overall. So why not work on hitting pan in a shade? Next is a palette I've considered working on panning for a long time. I've considered it for a pan that palette. I've considered it for many reasons, but I will never finish this palette, but it is one of my older palettes in my collection. I remember purchasing this, I'm pretty sure before I even started my channel, so she old. But it is my Tarte Clay Play palette, and I just haven't had the heart to declutter this because I still like it. I still think it is so good. I love these two bronzer shades up here, so that's definitely an option for a matte bronzer I could pan, but I also love all of these eyeshadows. I especially like that you have 3 lighter ones that you can use as lid shades, and then not only do you have some brown options, but you also have a black and some more cool tone options as well. So I love this palette. I'm not for sure why I haven't rolled it into a project yet, but if I don't get to it this year, it will definitely be going into a project next year. And last of my full-size palettes I'd like to work on panning, can you believe it? Natasha Denona, yes ma'am. I have always wanted to work on hitting pan in a shade in this palette, mostly because I feel like some of the shades are a little redundant. These 3 browns right here, while they are different, they're not very different. And I would definitely like to work on hitting pan in one of them. I've never actually officially worked on panning a Natasha Denona shadow, and especially not a full-size shadow. So I'm also really curious how long it would take me to hit pan on one of these big old eyeshadows. Other shades that I wouldn't mind panning in this palette though would be this shade right here named Kava, and then this shade up here, which is Lime Chrome, but they're all pretty. I would love to work on that palette. And then a couple of mini palettes that I would love to roll into a project eventually. Number one, my e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadow in the shade Rose Water. I would love to hit pan on one or both of these light shades. This one is matte, this one is shimmer, but it's such a pretty pink that I just love all over the lid. So I think it would be relatively easy to hit pan on that. I did hit pan earlier this year on one of my bite-size palettes in Pumpkin Pie, and it did not take long at all. And then lastly, another palette that I've been saying for a long time that I wanted to work on hitting pan in is my Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. Mostly because I am very close to hitting pan in this center shade, but I also love these two mattes in here, and I think that they would be easier to hit pan on as well because I have a huge dip in this lighter one, and I think this would be lovely for deepening up just about any look. So those are the eyeshadows. And lastly, I have 4 lip products. No, I have 5 lip products that I would like to work on panning. And with all of these, the goal would be to finish them. Starting with lipstick, I would really like to finish off this little sample size of the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Revolution lipstick in the shade Pillow Talk. There really isn't that much there, so I do think that I could pan it pretty quickly, especially if I multitasked it as a cream blush. But I already have another one of these. I have a mini size, so like a half size, and so I do not need to hold on to this little sample. I just need to use it up. Speaking of smaller lipsticks, another one that I would like to work on moving out of my collection is this Kosas Weightless Lip Color in the shade Rose Water. This, however, has a lot of product in it. I think it would take me quite a while. It's definitely one that I would, again, probably multitask as a cream blush to work through it because I'm not a big pink lip color person, if you hadn't noticed. But and then lastly, just based on age alone, I would like to work on my MAC Amplified Creme lipstick in the shade Sweet Mama Star. And I love this. I love this lipstick. It doesn't work for me all the time. There's certain parts of year where I don't really feel like this goes well with my skin tone, but a lot of the time it does. And I've had this for quite some time. I know I got it in my first year of YouTube and I'm in my 4th year. So I would like to work on this. Lipsticks don't last forever, and because I love this one so much, I would definitely like to get some good use out of it. And then lastly, I have 2 glosses that I would like to work on moving out of my collection. The first one is the Ulta Beauty Tinted Juice Infused Lip Oil. This is the shade Coral Punch. It's very sheer, it's very pretty, it works well and everything. I just feel like this isn't my favorite formula. It's a little bit sticky. It doesn't quite feel as hydrating on my lips as a lot of my other glosses that I've been wearing these days. So I figure why not just use that one up? It'd be very easy for me to use up because I just put things like this down by my computer where I work on editing, etc. And when I need to reapply a lip product, then I'll reach for whatever I'm panning. And then lastly, I have one of my Milani Keep It Full Nourishing Lip Plumpers. This is a shade Rosewood. I should have known when I purchased this that it wouldn't be a great color to have in a gloss. It's kind of dark, and because I am approaching 40 in January, I do have lots of lines around my lip, and this just doesn't work all that well for me as a gloss, so I just kind of feel like I'd rather try and use it up. I and that's it. So that's a wrap. That is what I have for you today. Let me know down below in the comments, are you looking toward things that you want to pan in the future, or do you just kind of roll with the punches and decide as you go? For me, when I'm watching videos, when I'm creating videos, editing videos, etc., it always comes to mind, yeah, I'd like to pan that someday, or, oh, I should probably pan that, it's getting old. I hope you get my drift. Let me know down below if you do think ahead. What's something that you're not currently panning that you would like to pan in the near future? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you as always, and I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days, and I will see you in my next video real soon.